I'm Natasha Chilingarian.
I'm Michael Ogden. This is Shared Accounts with CU Time, sponsored this month by Mambu. Thanks, Mambu. Hey, since we're doing a Navy Federal show today, I wanted to salute some special people in our lives, or that were in our lives. Teachers! Love them
Oh.
for the most part. But Natasha, producer Zach, I wanted to hear from you if you had a favorite teacher when you were in school, whatever grade. Yeah?
Oh, yeah. This question is, I don't know. I kind of struggle with this question whenever I've been asked it because I feel like that, like, favorite teacher is like someone who really like inspired you or,
Okay.
helped you really come out of a rut or believed
Mhm.
in you, whatever. I don't know. Nothing really comes to mind like that. I don't feel like I ever seeked that out. Like, it was just kind of I
That's
wouldn't
fine.
stay after class and bond with the teacher. I don't know. But
Right.
yeah, in high school, there were a couple. I would say the journalism teacher, Miss
Oh,
Stratton.
Miss Stratton.
Yeah. So I was in the journalism, I can't remember if it was all 4 years or maybe just the last two, but we did, it was basically like producing the newspaper, like this high school newspaper.
All right.
Yeah, and I remember I kind of went through a thing because I was just kind of struggling with having to, because it was a lot of work on top of like your regular work. You have to go
Sure.
interview all these people and track
Yeah.
people down in the school for these stories. And I think at one point I was just like, I'm going to give up. I can't do it. And I remember Miss Stratton, no, I remember telling her, like, I found her in the hall and I was like, I can't do this. I don't know. I'm just too overwhelmed. I just can't handle it. And she kind of gave me this smirk, kind of like, okay, and then just kind of walked away. And then later on, she's like finding me in the hall and telling me that you're too stressed out to do this is not a good way to go about your work or something. And then I came back and I was like, you know what? I've thought about it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to give it a shot and I'm going to
Okay.
keep going with it. And she's like, oh, cool, And then I remember running into her in a grocery store later, I think after graduating. And she was really nice.
Oh, that's
And she
cute.
was, I said, yeah, I'm going to do like magazine journalism is going to be my major in college. She's like, oh, I
Nice.
could really see you doing that. She's like, oh, another thing I could see you doing is PR if you ever want to
Mhm.
explore that, which I guess
Yeah.
I kind of did that a couple jobs.
Yeah.
So yeah, that stands out. So shout out to Miss
Aw.
Stratton. I hope she is still doing well. And I don't know if
That's
who
nice.
knows if she's still teaching. I should look it up. But
Right. You went to a fancy high school. Ours
oh,
barely taught us anything, but
I
good for
guess
you.
so. Yeah, I wouldn't call it fancy, but I don't know.
Well,
Maybe compared to Arkansas, like in your day in the
compared,
70s or the
yeah,
80s.
Arkansas was always kind of fighting Mississippi for the bottom spot of education programs.
Okay.
At the
Right.
time.
Oh boy. Yeah.
Producer Zach, what about you?
I would have to say, if I had to single out one teacher, it would be my junior year of high school English teacher, Mr. Reed.
Mr. Reed?
Okay.
Mr. Reed, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Younger teacher that actually, succeeded at connecting with the students.
Okay.
And funny enough, actually, after I went to college, I moved back closer to home
Mhm.
and ended up becoming somewhat friends with him
Oh,
to where
okay.
he came to my wedding.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Nice.
I
that's
have
awesome.
never, ever had any sort of experience like that with a former teacher. That's crazy. So that means you probably had a drink with him?
Oh yeah, I've
I
had
can't
drinks with
imagine
him.
doing that.
Well, how young? Like, how close were you in age to him?
It's really only like a 10-year age difference.
Okay. Yeah.
Right.
And when you're like in high school, that feels like a
All
huge difference. But then when you're like at a 30, almost
Oh,
40, that's like
100%.
it's a much less of a difference.
Okay.
Okay.
Mr. Reed.
That's cute.
That's a really funny story. Mine was my first grade teacher in Fort Walton Beach, Florida. There were 3 years. We left Arkansas, moved down to Florida for a bit. And again, first grade, Mrs. Kelly was her name. I was having the worst time, like, making friends. I was terrified.
Oh.
And she kind of was a buffer for me, like, because they were bullies and whatever and some dorks. But eventually she kind of calmed me all down to show me the world there in Florida, in the school there and stuff. So Mrs. Kelly, she was lovely. And she was, I don't know, how when you're a kid at that age, everybody's 100 years old? I don't know how old she was, but I think she was really old then.
She could have been like 20 or she could have been 50.
Very possible. But yeah, Mrs. Kelly. So,
okay, Mrs. Kelly. Well, and that's something that makes a difference. I think it's your life.
She
come out of your shell.
Totally
That's
helped
cute.
me. It was rough. at that time.
Oh.
But producer Zach, Natasha, thanks for sharing those stories. Those were cute. And hooray to all of your former teachers. That's great. And to all of those teachers out there, we need to get you a raise. We love you. Good luck with this new school year. And for the rest of us who decided not to mold the growing brains of our kids and work in the credit union industry, good for us. But everybody, welcome to Shared Accounts with CU Times. Coming up, we are chatting with Annie Sebastian. She is Chief Member Strategy Officer at Navy Federal Credit Union. Heard of them? We're going to be covering some topics that credit unions of all sizes can relate to, including data analytics, AI. She had a lot to say about that, which was really cool, and partnerships. We loved Annie, so listen up for that coming up. But first, we got to take a break from the week. Check in with Natasha and
Hey, how's it going?
adorable teacher stories.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and there's
Love
more.
teacher
It's interesting when you start thinking about that, and then different memories come up, like, oh yeah, remember that person? Like,
Yeah.
and there were a couple others I almost debated. I didn't want to like drag it out, of course,
Yeah,
but
right.
there was actually the first one who came to mind, which I didn't end up talking about because the reason why he was a favorite was kind of embarrassing. He was like a math teacher, like algebra and whatever comes after that, pre-calculus or something.
Sure.
I remember he was like this big guy that looked exactly like a Santa Claus. He was like, could have been the Santa Claus in the mall. I don't know, but like that was his look. Mr. Potampa is kind of a funny name too.
That's an insane name. That's great though. Potampa.
And the thing is, like, he was so nice and he would just give you an A, like if he liked you, and he would like come around, like when you were doing a test, he would go and he would just start solving the problem for you on your paper and then just give you an A. And it was great because like we didn't really have to, like, it wasn't a hard class, but also like didn't learn anything in the class.
It does, Natasha, sound like you were taught by Santa Claus. I don't think this was a real teacher.
Yeah, it was like, here's your Christmas gift, easy A in math, and you don't have to do anything. So
well,
it's not a surprise I didn't go into anything science or math related, apparently.
God,
so
I'm so bad at that.
I know.
Okay, what did you watch this past week?
Yeah, there was a movie I wanted to bring up that I finally got around to. Been on my list for a while. Nosferatu, the newer movie. I think it was like the end of last year it came out.
Yep.
Yeah, I needed like some time because I think it's like an almost 3-hour movie. Yeah, I enjoyed it for the most part. Just visually, it's like striking.
Yeah, I agree.
It was fun to just watch, and I love like just watching stuff like from that old time period, like in those old villages. I just find that really cool to watch. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I don't really know what else to say about it. What's the guy's name? Who I've been blanking on his name now. The male lead.
Bill Skarsgård, who played Nosferatu?
No, not the...
Oh, Nicholas Hoult?
Nicholas Hoult, yeah.
Yeah.
I saw the funniest story about him. I don't know if you saw this. Because don't you feel, I guess like his thing, it's almost like Adam Driver, where it's like a lot of people think he's like super hot, but then he's kind of quirky looking. Like he doesn't have the like traditional, oh, he's got a perfect face or whatever. Right. And I guess someone was interviewing him and they're like, oh yeah, everyone thinks you're so hot. What is it like to be just such a beautiful person? He's like, I don't feel like that at all. He's like, someone actually made a comment that actually resonated with me more, is that I guess he played a royal in, I don't know what series it was or movie, but
Catherine? No. Catherine the
One
Great?
of those like royals.
It was called The Great, I think. Okay. It was on Hulu. Great show, by the way.
Okay.
He was wonderful.
And he said, yeah, someone said, and he's like, and this I actually agreed with, you look just inbred enough to be playing a royal. That's hilarious. So,
that's true.
Yeah.
You know, I'm so thankful that we do what we do because we are not asked questions like that. You know,
oh, I know, right? Yeah, imagine being berated about like your looks all the time.
No, thank
would
you.
not. No, that would be very traumatizing.
Okay. Cool. Nosferatu.
Anyway,
I liked that movie.
Nosferatu.
Okay, it was a gorgeous movie, but I just thought it was fine.
Yeah. Okay.
It was good.
What have you been watching?
I watched a movie that was a real comfort movie for me, and this legit was at the time I was just talking about in first grade with Miss Kelly, and it was it was 1978's Death on the Nile, the Agatha Christie
Oh, okay,
movie.
yeah.
I used to watch the heck out of that movie. I don't know why I watched it so many times, but I went back. It was on Amazon, I think, and I saw it and I was like, oh, this movie. I remembered everything about the
Oh,
movie.
wow.
And it was just
Yeah.
so 70s. And they shot the whole thing in Egypt. Like they're legit
Oh.
climbing up a pyramid. They're riding horses around the Sphinx. I'm like, they wouldn't allow this crap to happen anymore because they're totally wrecking it,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know?
Ooh.
But yeah, Peter Ustinov, you would recognize him probably, but very young or kind of youngish. Mia Farrow,
Oh,
right
okay.
around the Rosemary's Baby era for her. Who else was in it? Oh, Angela Lansbury. She's drunk the whole
Oh,
time.
yes. Okay, now that, because I think I did watch it with my parents once, like on TV,
hmm
and I do remember the Angela Lansbury, who we used to watch a lot in Murder, She Wrote, of
Murder She
course.
Wrote,
That was
sure. Anyway, Death on the Nile, it was fun. Not a wonderful movie, but it was just a fun 70s vibe to revisit.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed it.
Nice. And isn't it fun how, like, you'll watch something that you watched a long time ago, and suddenly all these little memories come out from the deep little corners of your brain and
Oh,
to the
yeah.
top, and you're like, "Oh, yeah, and how did I store that in my brain?" That's
Mhm.
so it was, like, buried somewhere, but comes back out, yeah.
Yeah, I get it.
Anyway, okay,
Okay.
well, that's fun, yeah. Alright, well, we gotta move on to bigger and better things with
We
the
do.
interview with Annie Sebastian with Navy Federal. Loved having Annie on. Yeah, great conversation. I'll just lay out a couple of quick highlights here and
Sure.
then we can get right to it. Talked about the many ways that Navy Federal is sort of leading the way, as the largest credit union
Mhm.
that we have, with some really unique initiatives in mobile banking she talks about that I thought were really, really different.
Yep.
She also kind of goes into what she's learned from being a leader at Navy Federal for nearly
Mhm.
2 decades now and what it takes to successfully manage other people. I find that always a
Yeah.
fascinating topic. She also gave us the name of a person that she would like to meet,
Oh, yeah.
who also is a person who inspired her to become part of the credit union industry.
That's right. And do you remember? And again, we recorded this interview, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago now,
Right.
which happens. We do interviews ahead of
Of
time.
course.
But I
Yeah.
want to point out she's potentially one of the fastest talkers we've ever had on the
True.
show.
True.
And she's
Right.
great.
Well, yeah, and she gave us that, like, she mentioned that before we started, so I think, like, I already had that in my mind when she was talking, but just so y'all know, not you'll still understand. I mean,
Oh, yeah,
she's
yeah,
still
yeah.
great, very well spoken. Like, it's
She's
not like it's so
very,
fast that you cannot understand
she's just
anything.
very succinct and
Oh, yeah.
enunciates great. It's just, she's a blast to listen to.
Absolutely. Let's get right to it.
Yep.
You don't want to miss this interview. Really awesome with Annie Sebastian. We have that coming right up next.
Hey everybody, this episode is sponsored by Mambu, the world's only true SaaS cloud core banking platform. Now in the US, Mambu's composable approach works like building blocks, independent components that can be assembled to meet your goals and your members' needs. This gives credit unions agility to integrate with fintechs, freedom from vendor lock-in, and control to roll out new products on your terms. Because in today's world, standing means falling behind. So true. With Mambu, you can deliver the solutions your members deserve. Learn more at mambu.com. That is MAMBU.com. Thanks, Mambu.
Joining us in the virtual studio today is Annie Sebastian. She is Chief Member Strategy Officer at Navy Federal Credit Union, the nation's and the world's largest credit union in Vienna, Virginia. Hey, Annie, welcome to Shared Accounts.
Hi, Natasha. Hi, Michael. Thanks so much for including me in your podcast. I'm really glad to be here.
So glad you're here, Annie.
Absolutely. Thanks for taking the time. I know you're very busy. Yeah, we really appreciate it, and we're excited to have you. So, Annie, let's just jump right into some specific questions we have for you about your role over at Navy Federal. So, as we understand it, you've been the leader of Navy Federal's Member Strategy Office since it was first launched in 2023. So, I was wondering if you could just start off by telling us a little bit about that endeavor, a little bit about the team, kind of how it came about, some of the thinking or motivation behind its creation.
Sure. Again, thanks for having me. And yes,
Yeah.
I currently lead our member strategy office. And I would say it has a been a journey to get here. In fact, at one point when we were thinking about this, I was one of the people who said we didn't need this team. But
Yeah.
I'm really glad it exists now. And, our tagline of our members of the mission is so much, I think, more than a tagline. It's really how we think, how we operate, and how we stay inspired every day. But it's also one of those when everyone in the organization is focused on supporting our members, which is true. And we grew more complex. We had the proverbial silos as everyone gets more specialized in their business. And especially really that the members continue to have higher expectations. And we had this really strong focus on knowing them, making it easy, making it seamless. We realized that to be better aligned internally to meet those expectations, and if we had everyone kind of owning it, no one owned it. So we created the member strategy office to really drive that. We call it the horizontal alignment. I call it being better together.
Okay.
But so that we're the glue that helps stitch really our products, our services, our channels, our experiences all together in one, taking a member-centric and data-driven approach.
Well, let's talk about the data for a second. And with the member strategy office, and that stands out as something that would position your team that's in a key position in Navy Federal as you kind of think about the future. Can you tell us a bit more about the data and how it shapes your focus?
Yeah, data is really integral to everything that we do. And over the last 5 years, I'd say it's been one of our top efforts. We've put an enormous investment of both technology, time, and resources into our data strategy. I was laughing with a peer yesterday. More than 10 years ago, I was in something we call our executive development program. And one of the projects there was called Data Everywhere, Not a Drop to Drink. And that really speaks to kind of, right?
Wow.
It's pretty funny because I'm sure a lot of other credit unions can
Sure.
relate to that. We knew that data was a competitive advantage that we had because our members use us so much. And also that means they have higher expectations of us to know them. But our data was sitting in different silos, but it was a strategic asset. So we've been on a journey over the last 5 years to really connect the data all into one place so that we can know them better, to more efficiently move it throughout the organization so that, it's not just the traditional business data scientists that use it, but that data is at the fingertips of all of our team members so that they can serve our members better, or if they're in the back office, make smarter decisions. And we've also spent a lot of time really making sure that it's well governed, especially and putting a lot of security around it, because I think, we're in the business of trust. And so having data that we can rely on and that we can use is really important. And so I would say that data is a strategic asset that powers really everything that we do. And it's exciting that it's one of the 4 core components of the member strategy office to kind of drive an enterprise strategy for how we better combine and use our data.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah, no, we do hear that quite a bit from credit unions that there's this gold mine of data that's there, but it doesn't do any good if it's just kind of scattered everywhere. It has to be a strategy around it. But yeah, it sounds like you've infused it into the culture now when you say it's everyone is sort of involved for every department. So that's
Yeah,
really
and I
cool.
think that's common. We had a different processor for our debit cards than we do for our credit cards, for example. But to a member, right, they're just using a Navy Federal card. And before it took a long
Yep.
time to kind of combine that into one view. And so we have been working really hard to put all of that data into the cloud, into one system so that we can know our members. But to your point, that we can also deliver those insights about the members to the team members much more easily.
Right, absolutely. So let's shift gears just a little bit here. This is also kind of related to data, but just on the topic of AI, which obviously is top of mind, constantly being, it's a very big topic here on the podcast here with previous guests. It's obviously expanding right now, just in our collective consciousness, but so many aspects of AI also rely on good data, obviously. So that's the connection there. But just wondering if you could talk a little bit about AI. How are you all approaching AI right now at Navy Federal, including, its relation to data? And what kind of evolutions or developments are on the horizon as you look at its functionality and application moving forward?
Sure, Natasha, and I do laugh. I don't think there's a day that goes by that either the word AI or uncertainty isn't said. But yes,
Right.
right?
Right.
Yes. But yeah, AI is clearly top of mind. And I think one of the first things that we're talking about internally is acknowledging that AI isn't coming. I'd say it's already here. And
Right.
like most transformations, it's really hard to prepare for something that has so many unknowns, especially while you're going through it. But to your point, we feel very fortunate that the data work we've been doing and really the tech transformation we've been on over the last 5+ years has created a really strong foundation for us to build on as we approach AI. And I guess how to categorize we're talking about it is in 3 ways. first and foremost is really about how we can leverage it for better member experience, since, members are really at the heart of everything we do. How can it be more personalized, more responsive? And I'm sure like many credit unions, we have basic bots and a lot of manual processes that we have team members doing that really delay that service. So we're absolutely thinking about places where AI can help us improve that service. Second, I think we're really thinking about it in terms of what does it mean for our team members. I think it's going to shift their work and how they work a lot, but how can we get rid of those repetitive tasks and deliver really some more meaningful insights, because our team members are our greatest asset. And third, I think we're really thinking about how to leverage AI responsibly. So we're spending a lot of time on privacy, security, fairness, inclusion, transparency, accountability. We started by building, I think we called it 6 guiding principles, 5, and those are really shaping everything that we're doing. And if you want, I'm happy to get into kind of specifically some of the ways in which we're rolling it out.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would love
Yeah,
to
do
hear.
it.
Yeah. So I'd say we're already well on our way. Every team member at Navy Federal, just through our Microsoft suite of products, actually already has access to AI productivity tools, whether it's Copilot or through Teams. I mean, I have a team member who, even on our one-on-ones in person, he puts Teams on so that he can use it as his like task follow-upper. I mean, it's really amazing how
Sure,
just
sure.
every day it's helping out. We're also
Right.
looking at, we call them like fit for purpose tools. So I think of those things as like GitHub, which helps with coding, or I have the UX design team in my area. And Figma is a tool that they use heavily, and AI component is rolling out with that. And then we're also on the precipice of building some agentic capabilities for the enterprise, where we're looking at 2 or 3 really critical team member and member processes, and how can we fundamentally transform almost every component of that process, leveraging AI, but with a human in the loop. We are really committed to AI as human augmentation, because I think that will be really important, since services are differentiator and people are really our magic that makes it happen.
Right. Yeah. People don't want to just talk to a bot. I mean, especially as a credit union, the personalization is so important. So, yeah, we've heard a lot of that too, is kind of balancing using the benefits of the automation with AI, but then making sure there's still personal touch. But curious also, just on that topic before we move on quickly, have you seen any like tangible, specific benefits or impacts of just like some of those initiatives you mentioned so far, just among, the employees, or even how it's impacting members? Like, what would you say are the outcome of implementing these AI features?
I just heard today about I'm not going to remember the name of the AI tool, but there's an AI tool in security that we piloted a couple weeks ago, and they said it's taking something that took 10 hours. They're now doing it in about 10 seconds. And so I think we're seeing
Wow.
Oof.
specific activities like that. But
Yeah.
one of our first use cases was, we called it our internal virtual assistant, because I'm sure like lots of credit unions, we have very robust manuals for all of our team members, but our internal search capabilities and kind of retrieval of that information for our team members wasn't as great as it could have been. And so our internal virtual assistant is really an AI LLM sitting on top of all the manuals. And that has been huge, especially for new employees, to find the right content. And the ironic part was, when the answer wasn't right, it was more often that the manual was wrong. It wasn't necessarily that the AI got it wrong. And so,
Okay, that's good.
and now we're using AI to find the discrepancies in the manuals to make it better. So we're testing it in a lot of different ways.
Can I ask 2 very, very quick questions just on this topic? And dang it, if we should have just had you on for this. But are you finding that it's easily integrated like with your core systems? Is that an issue?
So what we're actually finding is we're getting AI through a lot of, we call them our anchor platforms. So what are
Okay.
our big tech partners, and most of them are building really robust AI solutions that we're able to leverage. And so we're constantly talking about what would we need to build. And I think the build is really the agentic that connects all of those partner tech platforms to serve our members in the way that we really want to differentiate on top of that tech.
Great. And then my other follow-up question is, are you sick of saying AI? Because I am.
100%. Although we're talking about this in a meeting soon, and I liked it. Someone said, instead of artificial intelligence, we should call it augmented intelligence. I'm like, oh my God, all the A's, all the I's.
Yeah,
But yes.
right. It's like one of those words. It's like COVID. Like, wait, am I going to be saying this word forever now? I'm just kind of annoyed by it.
At least you're not saying A1, right?
A1 steak sauce. Yeah.
I think someone said that by mistake.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, moving on. You've been there for a while now. It's coming up on a couple of decades, I believe. And you've held a number of roles in a number of departments and units there. I'm sure it's been really interesting to lead this new team, kind of what you've been describing here. But going a bit deeper, what has actually kept you at Navy Federal?
Michael, it's funny, as you can imagine, I'm a cusp gen wire. And so most people don't stay at the same company for 18 years. So I get this question often. And I really boil it down to three things. I think the first is what all credit unions have in common is we're not for profit, mission oriented. And that I think really matters. And so when I started here, I was an analyst and, I thought I'd only be here for 2 years. And then I was given the opportunity to build a new team called the member outreach team. So I went from sitting behind the desk, kind of looking at our members through all the data to getting out in the field. And I have to just tell you, I worked a NASCAR event and I stood on the sidelines and this retired Marine came up to me and told me the story of how we've changed his lives. And, he cried and I cried and I'm in an airport and, I'm getting high fives from people because I'm wearing my Navy Federal shirt. And it just really hit me what a difference we make. And so that's the first reason is you really make a difference. But then I would also just add, right, you also work with great people. And so you spend a lot of time at work. So my second one is just the amazing people. And then the third is it's a large and complex organization. So you get to try new things and have an impact every day. And so when you do good with good people and you get to grow and develop along the way, it's the trifecta.
Great answer.
Absolutely. Okay, Annie, another initiative I wanted to ask you about, something that Navy Federal launched earlier this year, and it aims to provide additional support to Navy Federal members navigating a permanent change of station or PCS orders from the military, which are obviously times that are recognized as complicated and stressful for military families. What can you tell us about that new PCS initiative and the motivation behind its development?
Sure, I'll start with the motivation. It actually is a combination of that data I mentioned, where we're really focused on leveraging our data to understand our members and kind of the creation of the member strategy office to bring all the parts of the business together to win and serve our members better. As we looked at both our qualitative and the quantitative data, something that really stood out was that PCS it's a really pivotal moment for that core demographic that we serve, the active duty. And if we could show up for the service member and the families, that would be huge. And in some ways, there's only 400,000 service members that PCS every year, but serving them was really important. But also, if we could serve that very difficult journey, guess what? We could help kids moving to or from college. We could help people moving for careers. And so we saw this as a unique opportunity to really differentiate for our core and create, happy to talk about kind of some of the things that we did there. But it was a great learning of how to serve our core members better and then extrapolate some of the learnings from that for our other parts of the membership.
Okay, awesome.
Well, I want to ask about the size of Navy Federal and then how it feels like working there and some of the things that you deal with. Do you feel an obligation, in your position there? Like, again, you're giving high fives to people and crying with people at NASCAR against, for God's sakes. But do you feel like there's an obligation to lead the way for other credit unions when it comes to, these big strategic decisions made at Navy Federal?
I think we recognize that, yes, we are the largest, but I think all credit unions are proud to be member owned, not for profit. And we have so much more common than we do dissimilar. And I think it's a privilege to be the world's largest. And there is some responsibility that comes with that. But I think it's something we embrace. And how I think that maybe shows up is things that we may be ahead of the curve on. Open banking comes to mind. I used to lead our digital team, and that was an area where, because we have so many members, we had a huge screen scraping from other financial institutions. And obviously that's not secure for the members to have their credentials sitting outside, but it was also putting a huge load on our system. So we got ahead of that. We had contracts signed with all the big aggregators. We were working with FDX, the Financial Data Exchange, on how to structure that. But because we had all these learnings, we also went to the World Council of Credit Unions conference, and we went to ACU this year and tried to bring some of our insights forward to help others who maybe are not as far along that journey to bring some of those forward. But I also love that we're now part of things like Circle and the African American Credit Union Coalition, because I think good ideas are everywhere. And so how can we both share what we've learned, but also get really good insights and innovation from those across the industry?
Can I tell you, we have noted that and have noticed that you have been joining these groups and attending these things that you weren't necessarily in the past. And so I love you guys for that.
Yeah. Love those.
Yeah, it's a cooperative movement, and I'm really glad we're part of it.
Yeah, love those collaboration stories, and we see that throughout the industry as well. So that is awesome. Okay, so Annie, next question. This is one I really like this question and find really fascinating, but just want to ask you a little bit more about kind of your approach, like as a leader and as a manager, just your experience being at Navy Federal for almost 2 decades, and you've probably managed a number of people and teams there. What are some like lessons or best practices you picked up along the way, just when it comes to successfully managing other people? And then do you have any advice that you would give to any, let's say, a newer or up and coming credit union manager or executive in some of these key areas of leadership, communication and building camaraderie, trust, and things like that?
I love this question on leadership because I think it's one of the most important things. As you can imagine, I have shifted roles throughout my time and I've become a different leader almost through every role because I've grown. And I really think leadership is a journey. When I reflect on my first role, I got to be honest, I didn't have kids. I didn't even have a dog. And half the team I was leading was older than I was. So, it really
Yeah.
felt like this enormous responsibility, but I got so much joy from it. And so I think connecting with people and embracing the role of leadership is really important. And I think some of the best advice I can give is finding that balance between leveraging your strengths and being aware of the downside of an overused strength.
Mm.
I think, there's that cliche phrase, what got you here won't get you there. So, for example, I was a very strong doer as an individual contributor. But as a
Hmm.
leader, you obviously need to delegate and engage with your team and work through your teams. And that's something you have to be really intentional about. I am not an organized person. And so, one of the things I've learned throughout my career, especially in leadership, is to surround myself with leaders that really complement both my strengths, but also help offset my weaknesses. And if
Right.
you were to look across my team, we did an assessment and there were kind of 5 parts of it. And I have all parts represented across my team. And I
Great.
think that's one of the best pieces of advice is lean into your strengths and really build a coalition of strong people around you because no one person can do it themselves.
And honestly, I wish that they taught you that in junior high school, honestly.
Right? Yes.
It would benefit us all if we would get our act together like that and understand that concept. Follow-up question, what's your dog's name?
Oh, well, sadly, as I said, I started that long ago in leadership, but we
Oh,
had a beautiful
no.
golden retriever named Mikey,
Oh,
and he was the best
Mikey.
dog. Yes.
Oh, Mikey,
Oh,
bless you.
No.
Okay.
oh,
Well, we'll move on from Mikey, but we love him nonetheless. Okay, final question in this first part here. I want to talk about online and mobile banking experience. What types of online and mobile products or services, functions, or tools are really resonating with Navy Federal members?
We do a lot to help support our members across the financial journey, but really to help, especially those new to finance and new to credit. And so, two things that have done really well in our mobile banking app. One is we started by just offering free credit score to all members. And we've now embedded that into a larger platform we're calling My Making Sense, which has a bunch
Okay.
of FinApp widgets. And what I love about it is we've now enriched all of our transactions, which is just a fancy way of saying it categorizes it and gives a logo. So it categorizes your
Okay.
groceries and your restaurants, and we give
Hmm.
insights. And so, as someone who hates to cook, I was shocked by how much more I
Hmm.
spend eating out than buying groceries. And so, we're using our
Hmm.
data to give our members insights in our application, and we're giving them tools to take action on those insights, like set budgeting goals and do other things like that.
Is there anything on the horizon that you all are going to be implementing soon when it comes to online or mobile tools?
Well, we actually replatformed our entire digital platform at the end of last year. We moved from a
Hmm.
homegrown mobile banking application, a partner based online application, and the application our agents used was totally different. And we put it all into one solution. And so
Okay.
now we're adding a ton of components on that. One of the ones we're actively working on that I'm excited about is really thinking about family banking and what
Mm.
is that digital connection between connected family members, right? I'm married, I have 2 kids. And
Mm.
so, how does the digital platform really work to support a whole household, not an individual?
nice.
So, how would you then describe? Because Dietrich kind of gave us a heads up that this stuff was being worked on last time we spoke with him, and your CEO, not just some random guy named Dietrich. But how would you describe the overall kind of direction you guys are headed right now in this area? Because it sounds pretty rad.
Yeah, so I'd say when you last talked to Dietrich, we were in the midst of the migration of kind of completing the rollout, and we're done with that. So now we're calling it the next frontier, where we can leverage that platform to build a lot more. But I
Yeah.
would say our strategic direction for it, I love how we call it. We say it's digital first, people always. because it is where the vast majority of our interactions happen. Not to throw stats
Yeah.
at you, but every month we have about 10 million members, which is about 2/3 of our membership, uses our digital channels 250 million times each month. So
Whoa.
it's where the eyeballs are happening,
Yep.
but we're really invested in making sure it's a seamless experience and that members can get to our team members easily, because they are really
Mhm.
where the magic happens in terms of delivering that empathy, that guidance, that support.
Y'all are doing some great work. Wow.
Thank
Yeah, I
you.
was gonna say that's very even like the idea of the family banking. Like that's really unique. That's something I haven't heard about before from anyone else. So love that. Navy Federal leading the way again, I guess, and very cool to
Absolutely.
hear it. Okay, Annie. Well, let's move on to the second part of our interview. This is going to be a lot of fun. It is all about you. Are
Uh-oh.
you
All
ready?
right.
Yeah. Okay. So first question, it is currently, well, we're almost at the end of summer now, unfortunately. But this summer, here at CU Times, we've been doing a lot of kind of reminiscing about what summers past have looked like for us, what the season means to us. This actually came up because we recorded a special summer episode of the podcast that just came out last week. So that was a lot of fun, and we talked a lot about that. So I wanted to ask you, give you the chance to chime in on that topic as well. When you think about just summer during your childhood, growing up, what's the first thing that comes to mind? What was it like for you?
It's funny. It's cliche but true. I'd say when I think of summer, I think of the pool. I grew up in the suburbs of Chicago, and almost all of them have their own neighborhood pool that everyone kind of went to. And
Yep.
I spent a lot
Awesome.
of time there, and I have 2 kids who are on the swim team, so I'm still spending a lot of time at the pool now.
All right.
Yes. But then I'd also say, because you know how like chlorine has that smell? I'd
Mhm.
probably say my quintessential kind of reminiscing of summer is the smell of the sprinkler, the rainbow
Mm.
sprinkler in the backyard.
Yeah.
There's just something magical and it feels like summer. All right, but I got to ask you guys, what about you two? Natasha, Michael, what were your reminiscences of summer?
Mine was 4th of July, 1976,
Oh,
bicentennial family. I was like 5, but I still remember how sweaty we all were in Arkansas, is where I grew up. And I just love, like, to your point, kind of the smell, but the smell I think of was cans of like cheap soda in a kiddie pool with ice,
I love it. Yes, I can picture it.
and I loved it. Yeah, that was it.
Yeah, well, I grew up in Oregon, and for the podcast, when we talked about this, I told a story about the summer of 1995. Sometimes somehow stands out for me. I was 12, and I just remember going down to Disneyland with I was in a dance studio, so we like did this little trip to Disneyland and did this little dumb little performance somewhere in the park. It was a lot of fun. And then I remember the rest of the summer just basically hanging out in the basement where it was cool because we didn't have AC. Didn't really need it then because it didn't get as hot back then.
Yeah.
And I remember just chilling out, staying cool. And then I remember distinctly just watching the O.J. Simpson trial and being really into it every day that summer. And yeah,
That's
that
it.
story followed me for the rest of my life.
Annie, where did you grow up outside Chicago?
Park River Forest area.
Fantastic. Okay. I'm
Yes.
just about 3 hours north of you there.
I love it.
Going to a Cubs game actually in a couple of weeks.
Nothing better. I mean, I almost said that for
Right.
summer because there's nothing better than a Cubs game in the summer.
Right. But you are in DC. This is my next question here in the metro area. Where would you take an out of towner who's visiting DC for the first time?
Good question. I have a few favorites. The first one, I think
Okay.
most people don't know about. It's totally free, but you have to get tickets. You can go to the top of the Washington Monument. And it's
Right.
so cool because you take the elevator up and you can see kind of the monument from the inside, and then you get an amazing view of obviously the National Mall, and it's just a free treat. I also think from the
Wonderful.
mall, the Albert Einstein Memorial, people don't know it's there,
Mm.
and he's really
Mhm.
cool. And if you haven't been to the 9/11 Memorial at the Pentagon,
Yeah,
it is really powerful and well done.
I bet. Can I give you my favorite place to go there?
Please.
Next time you're in Georgetown, Blues Alley. It's my favorite jazz club in this country.
That's a bold statement for someone who lives not far from Chicago.
I love it though. It's
All
I
right.
love the setting. It's legit in an alley. It's not that expensive, and you can see some amazing musicians.
All right, I'll report back, Mike.
Okay, cool.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll have to write those down because honestly, my memories of being in DC is just when we've gone to GAC
Sure.
in past years and just going in that little
Right.
area and where everyone showed up. Okay, next question, Annie. This is kind of this is an interesting one that could be revealing and go in any number of directions, I guess. But if you could meet and spend time with just any person, a celebrity, even a historic figure, who's the first person that comes to mind and why?
Natasha, I'll tell you, this is really hard for me because I love
I'm sure.
biographies, and one of my retirement goals is I'm going to read a book on every president and where written
Oh, wow.
first spouse in order. So I
Whoa.
love learning from
Cool.
historical figures.
Nice.
But I think for this podcast, the person I'm going to go with is Muhammad Yunus. He wrote a book, Banker to the Poor, which is actually what led me to work for credit unions. And so I would just love to
Oh,
understand
Oh.
his stance on microfinance. And he's a Nobel Peace Prize winner, and just I think would be fascinating to chat with.
Very cool. I love that answer. Yeah, it's very appropriate too.
I'm Googling as you were talking. Okay, 2 quick questions. Before we started recording, you actually said you were a notorious fast talker.
Yes.
And I love it. And I did notice you say the word competitive incredibly fast. Do you think that's the fastest word you can say?
See, the
You know
problem
what I'm
is I'm
saying?
extraordinarily competitive. So I don't know that you really want to ask me how
See,
fast I
yeah.
talk.
You say that word so beautifully. It's succinct and you can understand it, but you say it so fast and I love it.
All the syllables, yeah.
Yeah, you
in
nailed
there,
it.
Yeah.
I just wanted to point that out because you're pretty awesome at that. So great. It's a weird compliment, I know. Okay, childhood question here for you. We're almost done. What was the first album, CD, or piece of music you ever bought, downloaded, listened to, and loved?
Oh, the loved part. Well, the first CD I remember buying, I'm going to really embarrass myself, is Marky Mark
Please.
and Funky Bunch.
Yeah.
Thank you. But I don't remember, I would not say I loved that one. So, but I'll just
Okay.
go with the first one I
Nobody
remember
did.
buying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They just bought it. Yeah, it's all right. Mark, I think you're the first Marky Mark.
I think so. Yeah, I think that
We
is the
asked
first.
this of every guest, by the way.
Well, it's truly embarrassing, but I'm honest.
No, it's not. It's great.
No,
I love
I
it.
think there's been more embarrassing responses. I can't
Oh,
think of
this
them
is
right now.
wonderful. Okay.
Well, it's fun. Yeah. Okay. Final question today. This is another question we always ask all of our guests for a special playlist that we put together. What was the last movie that you watched?
Again, I'm going to go with honesty. K-pop Demon Hunters on Netflix with my 8-year-old.
What'd you think?
Oh.
I wouldn't watch it on my own, but his joy brought me joy. How about that? I wouldn't recommend it if you don't want to be in the know with elementary kids. Yeah. It is trending as
You're
the
a
number
good
one on
mom.
Netflix.
Good job
There you
watching
go.
that.
Okay.
Thanks.
It absolutely is.
Yes.
Oh, again, you've given 2 original answers on this episode today. Good job.
Great.
Okay.
All right. Well, Annie Sebastian, Chief Member Strategy Officer at Navy Federal, thank you so much for joining us on the show today. This was a lot of fun.
I loved it. Glad to be here. And thanks for all you guys do to keep the credit union industry up to date.
Thank you, Annie.
And to all of our listeners, thank you for downloading today's show. Please subscribe to Shared Accounts with CU Times in all the normal podcast places. And please share the episodes with anyone you can think of, your coworkers, even relatives you don't like very much.
Absolutely. And feel free to rate us too, 5 stars. We love that stuff. And thank you so much to our sponsor, Mambu. Check them out at mambu.com. Thanks, Mambu. As always, thank you to our producer, Zach Nyheisel. Thanks, Zach. Join us again next week for a new episode of Shared Accounts with CU Times. Until then, thanks for listening.